I think the first question that Thunder fans have is how healthy is Dwayne Wade?
Well, it's a great question. I think Heat fans have the same question. He's missed the last few games. I would call it a hamstring injury, but now there's some speculation that maybe it was something else. It certainly doesn't appear to be as serious as the hamstring, the same left hamstring strain that cost him 7 games earlier in the season. So all I can tell you is this: he went through the full practice yesterday, and although the Heat are not giving him, nobody made any declarative statements, I would guess that he's got a chance to play tonight.
What do you mean about something else, Reid? Spill it. Something else? What is it?
I know some sort of muscle strain. It was in today's Miami Herald. It's no scoop. Wade himself said he doesn't think it's a hamstring strain, that it's maybe some other muscle injury in his leg, but does not appear to be as serious, as I said earlier, as a hamstring strain that cost him 7 games in November.
Eric Reid with us, Heat play-by-play voice in the Little Caesars Hot and Ready Hotline. How good are the Heat when they are at full strength?
Well, that remains to be seen, and you know something, we're not going to see him at full strength this year. Josh McRoberts, who was brought in as a free agent to be the starting power forward, is done for the year. But a funny thing happened, about a month ago with the signing of 7-footer Hassan Whiteside. He was signed more as a developmental guy than a guy that was going to help this year, but he's turned out to be both. He's coming off a terrific 5-game West Coast road trip, and he's had 9 straight games with at least 2 block shots. And in the last game at Sacramento was the first game this year where he really had foul trouble, and he still had 2 or 3 blocks in shorter minutes. And he's changed the look of the team. He really has. At first he changed it.
You there? I almost want to keep it on just to see what's going on here. Or did we just get a whole different line? I felt like the line just switched. Eric? Give him a call back. I almost thought that maybe we were getting switched over to some sort of interesting conversation, or maybe he just got mugged. That was the other thought I had. Like, oh my gosh, somebody just knocked him straight cold. But anyway, I just saw this, by the way, with oh, by the way, this I'm going to get back to what I just saw. It's Thunder related. I'll do that in a little bit. But there's a great quote that I just saw about the Thunder. But that Hassan Whiteside character, let me tell you something. He's been great. And Eric, we lost you mid-sentence, but Hassan Whiteside, I mean, that had to have been a surprise for everyone there.
Well, I think so, obviously. I mean, they looked at him, I don't know where I got cut off, but they looked at him as a developmental project. The Heat takes great pride in their player development program. And that's what sold, the Heat have followed Whiteside like most teams since he was at Marshall and came out. Miami considered drafting him back then and ended up taking Dexter Pittman, the big kid from Texas, who did not work out as an NBA player. But they've tracked him, and when Miami met with him earlier this year, Eric Spoelstra pitched to him, the role they saw him in, and would he be willing to give himself over to the kind of conditioning and player development that the Heat had in mind, and he was very eager to do that, and he's given himself over to that. He's getting himself in better and better shape. He's working on his individual, skill set, and the results have been obvious and tangible. And as I said, he's changed the look of the Heat defensively first and then offensively second because as a pick-and-roll guy, he sets great screens. He's got, I think, his best attribute besides his timing defensively. There's great hands. He catches everything. And he's a good finisher in the basket area. So it's not just Dwayne Wade that's been throwing him lobs. Everybody's throwing this kid lobs, and it's given the Heat a dimension they did not have until he got here.
Eric, how has Luol Deng fit in with this team so far?
Like he would fit in with any team. I mean, what you learn about him first is what a great guy he is and what a versatile defender Luol is. We had a guy here for the last 4 years in LeBron James who went by the nickname, in Miami, 1 through 5, because he could guard, those positions 1 through 5. And, they're calling Deng 1 through 4. We've seen him guard point guards. You may see him tonight on Russell Westbrook for stretches of the game. So he's a little bit LeBron-like on the defensive end in the sense that Eric Spoelstra could put him on anybody and feel good about that matchup. So he'll start the night on Durant. I'm sure I'm not sure, but there could be some possessions where you see him guarding Russell Westbrook as well. Deng is at his best offensively when the ball is moving. And by the way, the Heat are at their best when the ball is moving on the offensive end. But Luol is a guy that never stops cutting. His timely cuts are a great addition to any offense. And when the ball moves, it usually finds energy, and Luol always brings that energy. He's been a very welcomed addition. And when you lose a guy like LeBron James, you are thankful that you've got somebody, the quality of the person and player that Luol Deng is.
Eric Reid is with us. He's a play-by-play voice of the Miami Heat. Eric, aside from the obvious of losing the best player in the world, how is this team different this year and how they play the 48 minutes out there? Is there any tangible difference that you've noticed in how the team plays without LeBron and with this new lineup?
Surely.
Well, they're struggling to find their way, and listen. Obviously, it's a huge difference to lose LeBron James and to try to sort of recreate yourself and stay as a contender. I think the biggest disappointment for the Heat this year has been their failure to win at home. They're a game over 500 on the road, and they already have 12 losses at home. I think the addition of Whiteside, the chemistry getting better as these guys get to know each other. My guess would be that the second half of the season is going to be more productive and better for Miami than the first half. But we'll see. A lot of it's going to be, contingent upon how healthy the Heat stay. But I think this team has a chance to finish up better in the second half. And listen, in the East this year, and any year, but especially in a year where there's such balance, it's how healthy and how well you are playing late in the season and playoff time that's going to matter most. And I do think the Heat will be a playoff team when it's all said and done.
How does the city feel about LeBron these days?
I know, that's it's how can one answer a question like that? It's so broad based, and everybody's got their own opinion. But I think to give it justice, I would probably say this. Everybody is thankful for the 4 years that they experienced here. It was unlike anything we've experienced in South Florida in the 27 years of Heat basketball, and really very, unusual for any team to go to the finals 4 straight times. What LeBron did was walk away from a team that was on the verge of making NBA history. Only the legendary Celtics of Bill Russell went to the NBA Finals more than 4 consecutive times. The Heat were in position to do that. He decided he wanted to go back to Cleveland. Only time will tell how well that's going to work out for him. I think in the short term it hurt the Heat, and I think in some ways it has hurt LeBron, but maybe it's going to work out in Cleveland this year or down the road. Only time will tell. But when LeBron came back for the Christmas Day game, I thought the organization and the fan base handled the situation in a first-class way, especially when you sort of juxtapose it with the way Cleveland reacted when LeBron first came back there. You remember the vitriol and the negativity that went on with all of that. They had a tribute video for him. He got a standing ovation. There's some hurt feelings here, but certainly not to the level that there was in Cleveland. And, I think we're all trying to just be centered and say, you know what, we are thankful for the extraordinary basketball that he was a part of here in Miami for 4 years. And, yeah, we sorry it ended, of course. You knew there would be an end date on it. None of us imagined it would come after just 4 years, but it did. You move on, and we all move on better for it. It was an extraordinary 4 years. And I think as time goes on, guys, people will look back at what happened in Miami and appreciate it for what it was. There was so much sort of negative emotions that the Heat dealt with from around the country and around the world after they put LeBron, Dwayne, and Chris Bosh together. But I think what those guys did, the sacrifice that 3 superstars made for the sake of winning is sort of the exception and not the rule. And again, we'll see how it works out in Cleveland, but I think it should be appreciated what those 3 guys did as a group and as a team here in Miami.
Eric Reid with us. I just got a couple more. That was a good breakdown, and I want to piggyback off of it and try to connect it to Oklahoma City, if I may. You've got a great experience in having been through the 4 years previous to this, and we're interested in this sort of stuff in Oklahoma City, and maybe your opinion on just telling us maybe how precious and just how much shorter maybe that the championship window was for the Heat than maybe you even expected? Or was it?
Well, listen, LeBron, when he signed here, it was 4 years with an option and then 2 more years. So, I felt going through it, and I can only speak for myself now, that we were in the middle of what was destined to be an historic NBA run. And it got cut short. But listen, it had only been done, a couple of times in NBA history. The Heat, in that 4-year period, played 87 playoff games. That's the most in a 4-year span in the history of the league. They won 2, and to win 2 in a row, and the way they won that, obviously in 2012 beating a very good Oklahoma City team that probably had not peaked and had not reached sort of its maturity date, and never did because of the trade that sent James Harden away. But the year after, to beat San Antonio in one of the classic series, I thought it was one of the great final series that I've ever witnessed. And in my 27 years as a broadcaster in the NBA, and probably 27 years prior to that, just enjoying NBA basketball, it had everything, that Heat Spurs series. So it was magnificent and memorable, and something that we'll cherish for always. And it sort of mirrors life. You better enjoy the present. Nothing lasts forever. When the times are great, you need to enjoy it and appreciate it, and we all certainly did down here in South Florida.
Eric, last one from me. Has LeBron leaving changed, not that they didn't like him or anything, but has it changed the appreciation that Miami Heat fans have for Dwayne Wade? Do they appreciate him even more now?
There's no question that happened. It's funny. A couple of terms came into being. We've been calling the Heat Nation for years now, but the term Heat Lifer came into vogue when Dwayne Wade tweeted it. Upon all 3 of those guys, Bosh, Wade, and LeBron, all opted out of their contracts after last year. And when it first happened, I think we all read the tea leaves wrong and thought it was a good thing, because we all sort of surmised incorrectly that by all opting out, maybe they're all going to take less to bring in more help. And I think Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh were ready to do that, obviously. LeBron opted out for clearly a different reason. But when Wade re-signed, and by the way, lost $15 million in the deal, he used the term Heat Lifer. We've had the great pleasure down here of, how often does this happen? You draft a player, in his case in 2004, he's the MVP of the 2006 finals. He has played his whole career here now in his 12th season, and it really appears that he will finish his career as a Miami Heat, the ultimate Heat Lifer, and people are greatly respectful and appreciative of all that he's done and all that he continues to do. He's having a very good year. He's averaging 21, 22, 23 points a game. He's over 50%. And while he might not be the explosive Dwayne Wade in his prime, he's still an outstanding player. He's a future Hall of Famer. He is arguably one of the top 5 shooting guards in the history of the league. And he's not done yet. He's a very prideful guy who wants to still be a part of a winning program in Miami. And, we're proud of him. And everybody is so respectful of Dwayne Wade right now. He's Heat royalty, and he always will be.
See, he just did something too that we always worry about here, and we always wonder about here. Us people who are far less professional than Eric Reid. See, he called a player, that doesn't have a plural nickname. He called the player a Miami Heat.
We never know if they're Thunders or Thunderers or
a Heater.
Thunder
it's
player.
just a Heat. So maybe our player, like Kevin Durant, is a Oklahoma City Thunder. Correct? Is that how that works?
I would think so, guys.
Okay. Yeah. Well, you're the professional here. We are not. So we're going to take your word for it. Good talking to you, Eric. Thanks for the time. We are very grateful.
Hey, my pleasure. Looking forward to tonight's game. It should be an excellent game, and anytime you get to watch Durant and Westbrook, that's a treat in itself.
10-4. Thanks, man. Eric Reid on the
brother.
Little Caesars Hot and Ready Hotline.